What if the parts of yourself you've been trained to hate, to push down and bury deep inside, are the actual key to healing your trauma? Seriously. What if all the rage, the shame, and the fear you've been running from your whole life don't actually need to be defeated, but just understood? This is the powerful, and let's be honest, often misunderstood secret to healing complex PTSD. It all starts by turning toward the very darkness you've been taught your entire life to run away from. Living with complex PTSD is like being in a constant civil war with yourself. It's so much more than just flashbacks or anxiety. It's this deep, gut-level feeling that you're fundamentally broken on the inside. From the outside, you probably look like you're holding it all together. But internally, it's chaos. One part of you is the hyper-alert protector, constantly scanning every room and every face for danger. Another part is the wounded inner child, the one holding all the pain, fear, and helplessness from your past. And then there's the part of you that just wants to live a normal life, the one that gets so frustrated and bone-tired from the constant internal battle. This feeling of being split into a million pieces is a direct result of developmental trauma. When a child has to endure ongoing abuse, neglect, or just pure instability, their personality has to twist itself to survive. You learn to wall off the parts of yourself that are just too painful to feel. The terror, the vulnerability, the rage, you shove them all down into the unconscious because feeling them was simply not safe. This wasn't a choice, it was a brilliant survival strategy. Your mind literally split itself to protect you. But the price for that survival is a total disconnection from your real self. You might not have a stable sense of who you are, feeling like a chameleon who has to change colors depending on who you're with. Relationships feel like a minefield because you're terrified of being vulnerable, yet you're desperate for connection. Your emotions can feel completely out of control, swinging from intense rage to a deep, hollow numbness. This happens because those walled-off parts of you didn't just vanish. They're still alive, deep down in your psyche, pulling the strings. They influence your thoughts, your actions, and your deepest beliefs about yourself, constantly whispering that you're unworthy, unlovable, or just fundamentally flawed. And as long as these parts stay hidden in the driver's seat, real, lasting healing will always feel just out of reach. So, how in the world do we begin to heal this fragmented self? This is where the work of a brilliant psychiatrist, Carl Jung, gives us a completely different path forward. Jung had this radical idea. To become whole, we don't need to cast out our darkness. We need to embrace it. He called this hidden part of our psyche the shadow. The shadow is essentially the unconscious basement of your personality, where you shove everything you don't want to admit is part of you. It's the storage container for all the traits, feelings, and impulses that you, your family, or society decided were unacceptable. For someone with CPTSD, that shadow is heavy. It's filled with the raw, unprocessed stuff of trauma. That unacceptable rage, that soul-crushing shame, the deep-seated fear, and the overwhelming vulnerability. These are the parts of you that were shamed or punished when you were a kid. You learned that to be loved, or even just to be safe, these parts had to disappear. But here's the secret Jung unlocked. The shadow isn't evil. It's not something you need to destroy. It's just the parts of you that have been abandoned. And here's the kicker. The shadow doesn't just hold your pain, it also holds your power. Buried right there next to the trauma are some of your greatest strengths, your life force, your creativity, your assertiveness, your right to say no, and your wild, untamed spirit. Jung believed that when we ignore the shadow, we're setting ourselves up for disaster. When we push these parts down, they don't go away. They just get stronger. They start operating in the dark, sabotaging our relationships, fueling our inner critic, and keeping us stuck in the same painful cycles. So, the path to healing isn't about getting rid of the shadow. It's about integration. Shadow work is the courageous process of turning toward these hidden parts, listening to what they have to say without judgment, and slowly, gently, welcoming them back home. It's about turning on the lights so the darkness is no longer in control. Let's think about someone. We'll call her Alex. For years, Alex has been dealing with all the classic signs of CPTSD. She carries this deep-seated belief that she's just too much for other people. In her relationships, she's either a chronic people-pleaser, terrified of taking up any space, or she suddenly erupts in an anger that seems to come from nowhere, pushing away the people she loves most. Underneath it all, Alex feels this constant, low-level shame, like she's an imposter just waiting to be found out. This is Alex living in the grip of her unintegrated shadow. That explosive anger? That's a disowned part of her, a part that holds all the righteous rage from past injustices, a part that was never allowed to stand up for itself. The people-pleasing? That's another part, the one that learned early on that being quiet and agreeable was the only way to stay safe. Then Alex starts therapy and learns about the shadow. At first, the whole idea is terrifying. Why would she want to get closer to the anger and shame she spent her entire life running from? But slowly, with support, she starts to get curious. Instead of beating herself up when the anger bubbles up, she learns to just pause and ask, what is this part trying to protect me from? Through this process, Alex discovers that her anger isn't a monster, it's a fierce protector. It's the part that holds her boundaries, her dignity, and her sense of self-worth. It's the voice that should have been able to scream, "Stop," all those years ago. As Alex learns to actually listen to this anger, not by lashing out, but by honoring its message, something amazing starts to happen. The explosive outbursts become less and less frequent. Instead of erupting, she starts finding the words to set boundaries calmly and confidently in her everyday life. She does the same with her shame, that part of her that feels so small and worthless. She learns that this part is just carrying the lies she was handed in childhood. The lie that what happened was her fault. By meeting this part with compassion instead of criticism, Alex starts to heal. The after for Alex isn't a life that's magically free from pain. It's a life of wholeness. The warring parts inside her are starting to find peace. Her anger has been integrated and turned into healthy assertiveness. Her shame has been met with compassion and is slowly transforming into self-acceptance. Alex feels more real, more grounded, and more capable of having honest, strong relationships. She hasn't destroyed her shadow. She's reclaimed its power. And in doing that, she's started to reclaim her life. Starting shadow work, especially when you have a history of CPTSD, has to be done gently and with a ton of self-compassion. The goal isn't to force anything. It's to create a safe space for your hidden parts to finally be heard. Working with a trauma-informed therapist is the best way to do this. But here are 3 foundational practices you can start to explore on your own. First, just practice compassionate observation. Start by simply noticing your triggers without judging yourself for them. When you feel a huge emotional reaction, whether it's rage at a coworker, overwhelming jealousy, or that familiar drop of shame, just pause. Instead of reacting or stuffing it down, get curious. Ask yourself, what part of me just got activated? And what does this part need from me right now to feel safe? It's not about analyzing, it's about shifting from self-judgment to gentle self-inquiry. Second, start a shadow journal. Journaling is an amazing way to give a voice to your unconscious mind. You can use prompts to gently explore what's going on in there. Try asking, "What qualities in other people drive me absolutely crazy?" Often, the things that irritate us the most in others are things we've disowned in ourselves. Or try this one. Write a letter to a part of yourself you've kept hidden, like your anger or your fear. What would you say to it? What do you think it would say back? The key is to just let it flow, without any censorship. Third, practice mindful self-compassion. A lot of these shadow parts are really just wounded inner children, frozen in time. They don't need to be fixed. They need to be soothed. When a difficult feeling comes up, try putting a hand on your heart, taking a deep breath, and offering yourself a few kind words. You could say, "This is really hard right now. It's okay to feel this. I'm here for myself." This simple act helps calm your nervous system and builds the internal safety you need to meet your shadow without getting overwhelmed. Just remember, this is a slow, gradual process. You're building trust with the most wounded parts of yourself. The journey of healing from complex PTSD isn't about becoming some perfect, polished version of yourself who never struggles. It's about becoming a whole version of yourself. It's about finding the courage to go into your own inner world and bring back the lost, forgotten, and rejected pieces of your own soul. As Carl Jung famously said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Your shadow, with all of its rage, grief, and fear, is not your enemy. It's a map that can lead you back to your most authentic, powerful, and resilient self. By learning to turn toward it with curiosity and compassion, you aren't just healing trauma. You are reclaiming your entire life. If this resonated with you and you want to keep exploring this path of deep healing, make sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss what's next. The journey to wholeness is the most important one you will ever take.